What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Big Fight Field channel, where we speak the truth and we honest and we talk about those Philadelphia 76ers, man. Now, I couldn't make a reaction video last night because I wanted to get some rest. I had an early flight back to Florida at 6 a.m. That's exactly what happened. And I'm tired. I'm tired. You guys are getting this in the afternoon. So this is a little bit of a late reaction. But, man, last night's game between the 76ers and the Boston Celtics, I think took 5 years away from my life, man. That game took forever. And I know game three against I know game three against the Brooklyn Nets was really tense. That was a really tense game to watch. But I don't think I was screaming at the TV for fouls, for bullshit calls against the 76ers. James Harden. Okay, let me tell you something. James Harden doesn't get calls at all. I don't remember one call that James Harden got in his favor last night. The 76ers dealt with so much adversity. They dealt with so much adversity, and they still took game one from the Boston Celtics. They had to deal with no Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid, which, by the way, very bothered by the fact that he didn't play. I don't want to forget that. I'm bothered by all of this. For another year, Joel Embiid is not playing when it matters most in the playoffs because of injury. That bothers me. I just want to get that out there. But the 76ers had to deal with no Joel Embiid. They had to deal with all the hype surrounding around the Boston Celtics in this series. And they had to deal with the officials who gave them the most bogus bullshit calls I've ever seen. Fourth quarter, Al Horford's literally jumping in the air when Harden goes for a floater, and it's called an offensive foul. So many ridiculous calls. Marcus Smart is a dirty player. First quarter, James Harden lands on it for a three. Marcus Smart puts his foot in the way for where James Harden lands to intentionally have him land on his foot. That is so dirty, bro. That is so dirty. It was disgusting. It was disgusting to the fact that I had to walk away from the television and go watch Monday Night Raw for about 10 minutes, 5 minutes. I was so disgusted with that game that the 76ers were going to get robbed because of the officials. And that's what it was leaning towards. The 76ers versus the referees and the Boston Celtics. But luckily, James Harden had the game of his life. I think this is the best I've ever seen James Harden in a playoff game in my entire life. Let's go through some stats before I fully get into this game. Tobias Harris, 18 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists. PJ Tucker, 0 points, 5 rebounds, 1 assist. PJ Tucker didn't do jack shit on the court, but I will bring up something that I loved from PJ Tucker last night. Paul Reed, B-ball Paul, horrible first half, turns it around in the second half. Just like Game 4 against the Brooklyn Nets, Paul Reed didn't have a good first half. He turns it around in the second half. He had 10 points and 13 rebounds, and he made 4 clutch free throws towards the end of that game last night. Tyrese Maxey, 26 points. DeAnthony Melton, phenomenal in the first half. Shout out to DeAnthony Melton. 17 points off the bench, gave the Sixers the spark that they needed. 17 points, 2 assists. He shot 6 for 10. And more importantly, folks, he shot 5 for 6 from 3. But James Harden showed up when the team needed him most. He knew he was going to have a huge responsibility in this game. And James Harden showed up. 45 points, 1 rebound, 6 assists. 45 from Harden. I wanted 30. I wanted 30 from Harden. He gave us 45. He gave me 45 last night. 17 of 30. 7 threes. That step back on Al Horford. Amazing. Do you know how many times I've watched that 3 to end the game? Oh, my God. My flight, I couldn't stop thinking about the game last night. I'm being dead serious. I couldn't stop thinking about this game last night. On the flight this morning to Florida. I mean, it was unbelievable, man. It was unbelievable. James Harden, 16 points at the end of the first quarter. James Harden knew that they're missing a huge presence in Joel Embiid. And James Harden can't be the assist, sharing the ball. James Harden has to score points. Because you're not playing the Brooklyn Nets. You're playing a much better Boston Celtics team. He knew what the task at hand was. He knew the responsibilities he was going to have in this game. And he showed up. And he showed out. And he shut up all the clowns on ESPN that were making fun of him the afternoon of the game yesterday. He shut them up. I want to talk about Doc Rivers real quick. Doc Rivers, hate him all you want. Have I been frustrated with Doc Rivers throughout the years he's been coaching for the Sixers? Absolutely. You have every right to be mad at Doc Rivers for being eliminated in the second round year after year after year. But the 76ers have the coaching advantage in this series. Now, granted, I would rather have the star advantage with Joel Embiid, because if Joel Embiid is on the court, then the Sixers have the best player on the court. Last night, the 76ers did have the best player on the court. In Boston, it was James Harden. James Harden was the best player on the court. Yeah, Jason Tatum had 39 points, 11 rebounds, but Harden had the 45-burger. And by the way, I'm about to drop a hot take before I get back into my conversation about Doc Rivers. I'm about to get into my hot take. James Harden's 45 points was better than Steph Curry's 50 points in Game 7. Why? Because Boston is 5 times better than Sacramento. No disrespect to the Sacramento Kings. Great season. But Boston is a much better team. Boston, TD Garden, is a more hostile environment than the Golden One Center. Okay? Harden, the Sixers were without Embiid. The Warriors were dominating all second half. So when the fourth quarter came, Steph Curry could pad stats. He could stat pad into the fourth quarter to get the 50 points. He's just padding his stats. Harden drilled a 3 to win the game for the Sixers. Harden made the clutch shots. Steph Curry didn't really make clutch shots in the second half. So that's why I think Harden's 45 was better than Curry's 50 in Game 7 against Sacramento. Harden's 45 in Game 1 against Boston was better. Now let me get back to Doc Rivers. Doc Rivers, when we needed to, made the necessary adjustments. And what did Doc Rivers do that was so helpful to the 76ers? The Boston Celtics shot 90%. They shot 90% at the end of the first quarter. The Boston Celtics had 38 points. They couldn't miss. Jaylen Brown couldn't miss. They were getting in the easy transition points. The 76ers looked lost on defense. So what does Doc Rivers do? Doc Rivers goes into a zone defense. And Jaylen Brown, when the 76ers switched into that zone defense, Jaylen Brown only had 9 points for the rest of the game. Now, granted, they made Jason Tatum look like Michael Jordan last night, the way he was shooting the ball. So unrealistic. He has a horrible shooting series against the Atlanta Hawks and then comes out last night and he shoots like Michael Jordan. What's going on, man? But for real, that was the key, one of the key turning points to the game was Doc Rivers switching to a zone defense. Because at that point, Boston, in the second quarter, scored 28 points. In the third quarter, they scored 21 points. In the fourth quarter, they scored 28 points. They did not score over 30 points after the first quarter. So that is great. And I had to mention that because that was just a smart, necessary adjustment for Doc Rivers. Now I want to talk about PJ Tucker. There was a moment that I found on social media last night in the middle of the fourth quarter where Paul Reed was getting out rebound and the Celtics were getting offensive rebounds. And PJ Tucker was yelling at him on the sidelines. Paul Reed was telling a coach something. PJ was listening. And he was like, "What the fuck you talking about?" And PJ Tucker lit a fire under Paul Reed's ass. And what did Paul Reed do? Paul Reed went out there and he got more rebounds. Shout out to B-Ball Paul, man. Those free throws at the end of the game, so clutch. So clutch. By B-Ball Paul. And with PJ Tucker, that's what I want. I want leadership. I want toughness. I want you to yell at your teammates when they're playing like shit. And that's what PJ Tucker does. And that's something we haven't had over the years with these Sixers teams. We didn't have that type of dude who would fucking yell at teammates when they were stinking it up. Between PJ Tucker last night screaming at Paul Reed and James Harden after the game was over saying it's one game, and James Harden wants to win game 2. It's something of like that. I'm going to go find that if I can. I'm not going to waste too much time, but hold on a second. He said, "We're coming in here to get game 2 as well." Harden told his teammates after the win, "It's just one game." James Harden is locked in, man. James Harden is locked in. I don't know if Joel Embiid's going to be playing. If it was up to me, more than likely, I wouldn't play him. I would not play Joel Embiid Wednesday night since we got the win. But if somehow he's good at warm-ups tomorrow, he's feeling good. We saw him on the broadcast last night. He looked fine to me. He got in the scuffle in a little bit in the third quarter. I'm like, whoa, you better get out of there, Joel. And if he feels good and he wants to play tomorrow night, you fucking play Joel Embiid. Because more than likely, that's your MVP. So I'm getting out of here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Again, sorry for the late upload. Just had to get the rest last night before an early flight here to Florida. No AEW Dynamite tomorrow night. Why? Because I will be talking about and covering Game 2 between the Philadelphia 76ers and the Boston Celtics tomorrow night. So be sure to stay tuned for that. Comment down below your thoughts on Game 1. James Harden, 45 points. The Boston Celtics and the 76ers with the Sixers going up 1-0. Hit the like button if you'd like to hear from me. Follow me on Twitter and TikTok at Colin_Joseph. And guys, I'm getting out of here. Have a good one. Peace. Stay classy.